This is a problem not only with rabbinical Judaism, it's also a problem with Christian sects, and a lot of them. They hold to the teachings of man and not to the Bible alone, and that's simply wrong, and we can validate that later. But some of the denominations that do this are infallibility of papal decrees. Okay, whether you're a Catholic or not, it doesn't really matter to me, but infallible papal decrees are simply not possible based on the nature of God. Okay, the Seventh-day Adventists, they hold the writings of Ellen G. White up comparable with the Bible, even though they kind of try to discount that as much as possible. They do. The Mormons have the Book of Mormon equal with the Bible, and the Book of Mormon in itself is riddled with faults that it would take an entire study to go through. I'm not going to, but I assure you that the nature of God presented in the Book of Mormon is not compatible with the nature of God that we're determining from reason alone, and how it is presented simply is not correct. So Mormonism, the Seventh-day Adventists, infallible papal decrees, and I'm not trying to say that there are not saved people in some of these denominations or whatever. That's not what I'm here to do right now. I'm here to tell you about the nature of God and how we can understand God's nature, and therefore how we can understand how He reveals Himself, okay, which is assuredly through the 66 books of the Holy Bible, and we'll get to that. Just bear with me on that. I'm just making a point at this time. Either God has given us His Word or He hasn't. If He has, then it is sealed, it's complete, and I'll get to why later, but it is sealed and complete, and it's also authoritative, meaning that man has no authority over it. If man has authority over it, then it cannot, by its very nature, be God's Word. So you need to reason that through. Man has no authority over God's Word. We discover what God has already given us. We don't bring it out and proclaim and say, this is God's Word. God proclaims His Word. The fourth option, which is that none of the three major religions is true, would mean that God has left us without a testimony. And that would demonstrate an uncaring God, a God which is not the God that we've already deduced by His moral attributes. It would violate His own moral character, and it's the character that we have already determined through reason. Okay, that's impossible. God can't violate His own nature, and His nature is, one of His aspects is love. To leave us without any testimony of Himself would be an unloving God. He cannot violate that. Therefore, there must be a way that we can determine what God is like and understand what He expects of us. Please understand that as well. And if He has left us without a word, He has left unattended the most important question open to humanity. Now, I want to tell you what the Harvard scientists are doing right now. They are mapping the most complex organism in the universe. They admit it's the most complex organism in the universe. And what is it? It's the human mind. The human brain is more complex than the universe itself. It's infinitely more complex, and it's amazing how complex the human mind is. And that's what they're busy mapping, and that's what they have dubbed the human mind, the most complex organism in the universe. Now, for God to have created such absolute magnificence, and then to reject it by saying, well, I'm not going to tell them what I expect of them, or how they can have right relationship or felicity with me, would show an uncaring God. It simply would violate His nature, and it is not possible. This actually, after having talked a short talk today, it actually leaves us with only two possibilities. Remember that I already believe that the Old Testament, biblical Judaism, leads naturally and inextricably to the New Testament. Okay, I already believe that, and because of that, it leaves us with two possibilities: Christianity and Islam. Are both of these a path to fellowship with God? Is one incorrect and one correct, or are they both wrong? We'll talk about that next time. So for now, Abigail and I are going to say have a nice evening.